My family kicked me out during Christmas dinner. We've all decided you should leave and never come back, my sister said. I just smiled. Okay then. I guess you won't be needing this. Then I tore up an envelope and walked out. When they saw what I'd destroyed, they started screaming. Technically, I didn't even get to finish my meal. There was still mashed potato on my plate, and I'm pretty sure Derek, my sister's boyfriend who lives with us now and treats the dining table like a food court, was halfway through a second helping when it happened. My fork was midair. Eliza had just finished some long-winded story about how she saved Christmas by booking a last-minute replacement turkey, even though I was the one who brined it, prepped it, and roasted the damn thing. And then she dropped it. The line, like she'd been waiting all evening for the right moment to toss the grenade. We've all decided you should leave, she said, sipping wine like she was on an episode of Real Housewives of Passive-Aggressive Suburbs. And not come back. Just like that. One sentence. Well rehearsed. I blinked. Once. Twice. My mom cleared her throat but didn't speak. My dad didn't even look up. Derek suddenly looked very interested in his gravy, like it was the most fascinating substance on earth. So I asked calmly, "What?" And Eliza repeated it, slower this time, like I was slow. We've all decided. It's time you moved out. For good. No one corrected her. No one said, "Hold on, that's not what we talked about." Because they had talked about it. All of them. Without me. I guess family meetings don't require the full cast anymore. I looked at each of them in turn. My mom, twisting her napkin. My dad, cutting food he wasn't eating. Eliza, smug as hell in a white knit sweater that would have looked cozy if it didn't belong to the villain. And Derek, sweet, useless Derek, chewing like someone trying to disappear behind a dinner roll. Something in my chest cracked. But instead of falling apart, I reached into the inside pocket of my hoodie. I'd brought it in right before dinner. Almost forgot it upstairs. Stupid, really. I had planned to wait until after dessert. I had rehearsed a little speech in my head, something casual but heartfelt. But now, I pulled out the envelope. It was thick, cream-colored. I'd sealed it with a gold sticker like a total sap. I held it up. "Okay then," I said, smiling so wide my face hurt. "I guess you won't be needing this." And I tore it. There was a moment, a beat, where no one moved. Just the sound of paper splitting. That soft, delicate tear that feels too quiet for what it means. Then I dropped it on the table. 2 perfect halves. Right on top of Derek's third roll. I walked around the table, grabbed my coat off the back of the chair, and started toward the stairs. It took about 4 seconds before Eliza shouted, "Wait! What was that?" But I didn't stop. I was already walking up the stairs, past the gallery wall of family photos I'm barely in, past the framed portrait in the hallway where I'm somehow blurry despite standing still. I started grabbing things. A backpack, my phone charger, toothbrush, socks. I didn't even fold my clothes, just shoved them into the bag in a panic sweep. Downstairs, I could hear voices rising. Eliza was panicking. My mom's voice kept saying something about timing, and couldn't she have waited? My dad finally spoke, I think. Or maybe it was Derek. Hard to tell. Half the time they all sound the same when they're scrambling to reverse a bad idea. I zipped the bag, slung it over my shoulder, and looked around my room one last time. The twin bed. The dent in the wall from when I tripped over my laundry basket. The bookshelf that still had my 7th grade spelling bee trophy on it, even though no one ever mentioned it again after Eliza won regionals the year after. I didn't say goodbye. I walked down the stairs slowly, taking in the noise, the realization starting to hit them. When I passed the dining room, I didn't stop. I didn't look at their faces. I didn't gloat. I just opened the door, stepped into the cold, and shut it behind me. They didn't come after me. Not at first. But they would. Eventually, they'd piece it together. They'd remember what today was supposed to be. They'd realize what I had been planning, what they threw away. It wasn't just a letter. It was something that could have changed everything. It's a weird thing, packing a bag in your own house like you're some kind of intruder. Worse when you realize no one stopped you. No one asked where you were going. They just let you go. It wasn't always like this. I mean, okay, maybe it kind of was. But I didn't notice how bad it was until I got older and realized that not everyone's childhood felt like living in someone else's highlight reel. Eliza was the golden child before she could even walk. It's like the sun shined a little harder on her side of the crib. People used to joke about it at family parties. "You'll have to watch out for this one," they'd say, tousling her hair while I sat nearby, unbothered and entirely unseen, like the family ficus. And to be fair, Eliza was charming. She had that thing, that glossy magazine ad energy that made grown-ups want to hand her things. Teachers loved her. Neighbors complimented her posture. She got awards for participating and trophies just for smiling. Meanwhile, I once got a laminated certificate that said "good effort" after a group project, and even then, I had to share it with 2 other kids. Our mom treated Eliza like a miniature version of herself, like some second draft she was finally getting right. They'd go shopping together, sit in the kitchen, and talk about woman things while I cleaned up after dinner. I once heard my mom say, "You're the only one who really understands me," to Eliza. I was 12. In the next room, our dad mostly stayed out of it. I think he thought being neutral meant being absent. As long as the bills were paid and no one was crying, he figured everything was fine. And then there was Aunt Margaret. She wasn't actually anyone's aunt, not by blood. She was our mom's godmother, technically. But we all called her Aunt Margaret because it made things simpler, and also because calling her the family lottery ticket felt too obvious. She was old money, like actual old money. Big house, no kids, pearls before noon kind of old money. She lived alone, wore elegant clothes with pockets deep enough to hold both hands and a grudge, and never showed up without a perfectly wrapped gift and at least one sharp comment about someone's shoes. The family always said she had no one. No husband, no children, no siblings. Just us. And by us, they mostly meant Eliza. Eliza started visiting her when she was still in high school, weekend lunches, spa days. She'd come home with little boxes from Aunt Margaret, earrings, scarves, once even a tablet for studying. My mom encouraged it, of course, called it bonding, said Eliza was doing a good thing by keeping the poor woman company. I didn't go as often. Not because I wasn't invited, but because no one ever expected me to. I'd tag along once in a while, usually if Eliza was busy or Aunt Margaret asked specifically. We'd sit in her sunroom and talk about books, or weird news stories, or how her garden was being murdered by squirrels. I liked her. She didn't ask too many questions, and she never told me how to sit, or what to wear, or why I wasn't doing more with my life. She was cool. A little intimidating, but kind in her own way. When I turned 18, she gave me a fountain pen and said, "Every girl should have something beautiful that no one else touches." I still have it. Never used it. Anyway, you can probably guess where this is going. Aunt Margaret passed away a few months ago, peacefully, in her sleep, according to the voicemail. Eliza was the one who got the call. I found out over group text. She'd been sick, apparently. Not that anyone told me, but the family wasn't devastated. Not really. They were polite about it, reserved. The way people are when they're sad about a delay, not a death, because everyone knew what came next. The will. They held it in Aunt Margaret's lawyer's office, a sleek little firm downtown with uncomfortable chairs and free mints. Eliza dressed like she was attending a brunch with royalty. My mom wore pearls. My dad wore a suit for the first time since my high school graduation. Derek was there too, which was bold considering he's not legally tied to anyone in this family except by shared leftovers. I wore jeans. We all sat there while some paralegal handed out bottled water, and the lawyer, a stiff man named Harland, opened a leather folder and cleared his throat like he was about to sing the national anthem. And then he read it. The will. Everything. The house, the accounts, the car, the jewelry, the investments. All of it went to me. Not split. Not shared. Just me. There was a silence in that room that I will remember until the day I die. Eliza blinked like she was glitching. My mom's mouth opened and didn't close. My dad made a sound I can only describe as a soft reboot, and Derek, bless his heart, said, "Wait, her?" Harlan didn't flinch, just turned the page and kept reading. The rest of it was standard stuff. Donations to a library, instructions for the burial, notes about the estate sale. But none of it mattered. Not after that first page. Afterward, we stood in the parking lot in silence. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I was still trying to figure out if it was a mistake. A cruel joke. A misprint. Eliza broke the silence first. She didn't look at me when she said it. "What did you do?" And I just stared at her. Because I didn't know. I didn't do anything. I hadn't tried. I hadn't schemed. I hadn't even imagined being included in that will, let alone inheriting everything. I felt stunned, and then guilty, and then weirdly ashamed. They stopped talking to me after that. Stopped including me in conversations. I'd come downstairs and hear silence. Walk into a room and feel the temperature drop 10 degrees. It was like I'd stolen something, like I was a thief living under their roof. So I decided to fix it. I started writing the letter, the one I planned to give them on Christmas, the one I sealed with a gold sticker and tucked into my hoodie before dinner, the one I tore up. I didn't decide to share the inheritance because I'm some saint. Let's get that straight. I wasn't trying to buy love or play peacekeeper or do the right thing like it was a math problem. Honestly, I think I just didn't want to be the reason they hated me. Because even though I didn't ask for it, didn't compete, didn't lobby, didn't play the game, they made it pretty clear that me getting it was enough. That I was, in their eyes, the villain. And yeah, maybe part of me still wanted to believe there was some version of us that could be salvaged. That if I showed them I wasn't greedy, wasn't like them, they'd see me differently. That maybe, deep down, they still saw me as family. So I sat on my bed for 3 nights straight writing that letter, ran the numbers, figured out a breakdown that was fair, not equal, but generous. I kept a portion to myself. Aunt Margaret did choose me after all, but the rest I divided up cleanly. A lump sum for my parents to pay off their credit cards and fix the roof they'd been complaining about for years. A decent amount for Eliza, enough to feel like a win, not enough to fund another 5 years of online boutique drama, and even a slice for Derek, because I'm either charitable or stupid and still haven't figured out which. It wasn't just a letter. It was a way out. For all of us. I sealed it in a cream envelope, added a gold sticker because apparently I was still clinging to the illusion that this would be a moment, and slid it into the inside pocket of my hoodie. I was planning to hand it to them after dinner. No speech, no drama, just a quiet gesture. But the week leading up to Christmas, things shifted. At first it was subtle. Eliza started asking weirdly specific questions, what kind of interest rate the lawyer mentioned, how liquid the assets were, whether I'd talked to a financial person yet. She asked like someone asking about your new haircut when they're really just checking to see if they still look better than you. Then it got bolder. Mom cornered me while I was folding laundry and said, "I just think it's important to remember that Margaret never would have wanted her money to tear this family apart." I nodded and said, "That's why I've kept quiet about it." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Of course. But you'll be doing the right thing, won't you? The generous thing? And I said, sure, because I was going to. I already had. But that wasn't enough. Later that same night, I overheard Dad on the phone with someone, maybe his brother, maybe the neighbor he's weirdly close with, saying, yeah, Olivia's got it all, but we'll talk some sense into her. It's family. She won't keep it like it was a given, like not giving it to them would be an act of war. By Christmas Eve, Eliza was openly leaving tabs open on my laptop with links to luxury kitchen renovations and one of those awful white and gold couches she loves. Derek spent the morning suggesting they finally turn the guest room into a studio space, which was hilarious since A, it's not their house, and B, I currently live in the guest room. They were planning around me, around my money, around a life I hadn't agreed to be part of, and I still held on to that letter, still thought, maybe if I give them this, they'll stop looking at me like I'm some thief who cracked their safe. Then Christmas Day came. The table was set for 5. Eliza insisted on doing the centerpiece this year, something with fake cranberries and twine, and a pine-scented candle that smelled like a Yankee Candle store exploded. I helped cook because no one else volunteered, and I can't watch someone overcook green beans without experiencing a physical reaction. My mom didn't say thank you, but she did say the carrots were a little soft. Dinner started tense. Not unusual. No one looked at me until they did. At some point, Eliza turned to me with a smile that felt like being handed a contract and told to sign. So, she said, have you thought about how you're going to use it? The money, she added, for those playing dumb. I blinked. I'm still thinking it through. She laughed. Well, just remember who was there for her. Who kept her company all those years I said nothing. Mom chimed in. It's not about us wanting anything, sweetie. But it would be hurtful if you didn't consider everything we've done for you. I was about to answer, still gently, still calmly, when Eliza hit the gas. Honestly, she said, swirling her wine, I don't even know how Aunt Margaret ended up giving it all to you. You barely knew her. There it was, the thing they all believed but hadn't said out loud yet. You think I did something? I said slowly. No one answered. I reached into my pocket, felt the edge of the envelope. I had written that letter. I had planned this moment. I had come into this dinner still wanting peace, and they were ready to tear me apart over something I hadn't asked for, hadn't wanted really, until they made it clear I didn't deserve it. That's when Eliza said it. We've all decided you should leave and never come back. Just like that. Like I was a roommate they'd voted out of a group lease. No one corrected her. No one defended me. I reached into my hoodie and pulled out the envelope, held it in front of me. They leaned forward like dogs waiting for a treat. I smiled. Okay then, I said. I guess you won't be needing this. And I tore it. Clean, quiet, deliberate. I watched Eliza's smile collapse in real time. I dropped the pieces on the table, stood, and walked toward the stairs. They were still blinking, still trying to compute what had just happened when I reached my room and started packing. Let them scream. Let them guess. They don't know what they lost, but they will. When I left the house, the cold hit my face like a slap, but it felt cleaner than anything that had just happened inside. I was halfway down the walkway when I heard the door fly open behind me. Olivia! Eliza's voice, sharp and urgent, like I'd just dropped something she owned. I suppose they've read the letter by now, the one I tore. They would have pieced it together eventually. I didn't stop walking. Olivia, are you serious right now? You're actually leaving? I reached the sidewalk before she caught up. She was barefoot, arms crossed over that gauzy top she wore like she was starring in some indie Christmas movie where the misunderstood influencer learns the true meaning of family. You don't have to do this, she panted, trying to sound reasonable now. We were just surprised. I turned to her, slowly. Surprised that I exist? Or surprised I didn't roll over and hand it all to you with a thank you card? Her face flickered. You didn't even earn it. There it was. You barely knew her, she added. We were the ones who visited, who took care of her, who waited for her to die so you could redecorate, I said flatly. Yeah. I know the porch light clicked on. Mom stepped out, coat thrown over her shoulders. Sweetheart, she called, voice trembling. We didn't mean what we said. Eliza was just speaking for all of you, I said, loud and clear. Mom made her way down the steps, a little slower now. Look, emotions were running high, she said, but don't throw your future away over some misunderstanding. I stared at her. My future? She didn't blink. You don't know how hard the world is. You'll need us. Families fight, but we come back together. I almost laughed. You told me to pack my things and never come back. That was before we knew. She stopped herself. Before you knew what? That I had already decided to be generous? That you'd just burned the bridge that was meant to carry you? I don't need a ride, I said. I have a friend down the street. You're really just going to walk away? Eliza said, hugging herself. Like you don't owe us even a conversation? I looked at her. You made it very clear I didn't owe you a place at the table. And with that, I turned and kept walking. I didn't stop until the corner. They didn't follow. Not that night. 2 days later, they turned to extended family. The cousins, the uncles, the godmother I hadn't seen since middle school, but who now had a lot to say about respect and family obligations. Texts started rolling in, some vague. Hope you're doing okay. Heard there was some confusion, some not. You should be ashamed. Your parents sacrificed so much for you. One message from a second cousin even quoted scripture. She spelled my name wrong. I ignored all of it. My friend Ava let me crash on her couch longer than I meant to. I offered rent money. She refused. Said, "You're not here forever." Just until you remember who you are, I thought I already had. Then the knock came. 3 days after Christmas, right after sunset. I was alone. I opened the door and nearly laughed. Mom, standing there like she hadn't thrown me out less than a week ago. Hi, she said. I didn't move. You're not supposed to know where I am. Aunt Lorraine told me, she said, like that explained everything. You shouldn't have cut us off. It's not right, I stared at her. You came all this way to say that? She looked past me into the living room. We just want to understand what happened, what you were thinking. You read the letter, I said. You know what I was thinking. But why did you write it? She asked, her voice pitching upward. Why would you offer us something so generous, then take it away? Because you told me to leave. We were upset. You meant it. She exhaled sharply. Eliza is heartbroken. Eliza is embarrassed, I corrected. That's not the same thing. I started to close the door. I don't want us to end like this, she said quickly. I paused. This isn't ending. This is you getting what you wanted. She didn't move. Then I reached into my coat pocket. I got something, I said. A letter. She squinted. From Aunt Margaret, I added. Her neighbor sent it. That shut her up. I pulled it out, carefully folded, worn at the crease. I didn't hand it to her. I read it, aloud. Olivia, by the time this reaches you, I imagine a few people are upset. That's all right. When people don't get what they expected, they often forget what they already have. I didn't leave this to you because you tried to impress me. Quite the opposite. You were the only one who never did. You showed up with your whole self. No performance, no careful smiles. You treated me like a real person, not a stepping stone. That honesty stayed with me. This inheritance isn't a reward. It's a vote of confidence. I want you to build something that's yours, something you don't have to apologize for or shrink to fit into someone else's comfort zone. You don't owe anyone a piece of it. You never did. Use it boldly, freely, joyfully. And if people don't understand, let them wonder. With love and faith in your future, Margaret. I looked up. My mom was pale. She knew who you were, I said, even when you thought she didn't. Her mouth opened, closed. I gave her a small smile, not warm, not cruel, just done. Tell Eliza I'm not coming back. Then I closed the door, and this time, I didn't look back. 3 weeks later, I moved into a one-bedroom apartment with creaky floors and windows that stuck in the corners. But it was mine. No one else's name on the lease. No voices yelling down the hall. No footsteps outside my door that made me brace. I didn't go big. Not yet. I could have. But I wanted to take my time. To start small, and honest, and real. I bought a decent mattress. The kind you pick out for comfort, not because it was on clearance in your childhood size. My friend Ava came by and helped me hang a corkboard over the desk. I pinned one thing to it, the letter. Sometimes I reread it. Not because I need the reminder, but because it reminds me that I didn't make all this up. I really was seen, and still chosen. And that's enough to start something real. They've stopped calling. I hear through the grapevine that Eliza's rebrand flopped, Derek moved out, and my parents are keeping to themselves these days. Apparently no one wants to visit the house now. Something about the energy feeling off. I don't miss them. Not anymore. I miss who I hoped they were. But now I know better. And knowing better is the closest thing I've ever had to peace. Sometimes I still wonder if I went too far. Not the leaving, not even the silence afterward. But the letter. Was it stupid of me to write it in the first place? To believe even for a second that handing them money would make them see me differently? Or maybe it wasn't stupid. Maybe it was just the last thread of hope unraveling on paper. Either way, I tore it up. And honestly, I haven't regretted that part once. But still, what do you think? Did I do the right thing? Or was I just as naive as they said? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed the story, don't forget to subscribe for more. My parents left my 6-year-old daughter alone at home for a week and went on a luxury holiday with my sister's kids. We didn't have enough space for her in the car, my mother said. I didn't shout. I did this. The next day, their lives started to unravel. I thought it would be another calm week. My daughter, Lucy, thought it would be the best one yet. She was half right. Every year I dropped her off with my parents for Grandma Week, and every year it went fine, until this one. If I'd known what was coming, I'd have kept the engine running. Lucy had been counting down for days. 6 neat X's on her calendar, 1 for each night away. She packed her own backpack, 2 stuffed animals, a flashlight, and exactly 11 crayons. Grandma says I can draw late, she told me proudly, as if staying up past bedtime were an Olympic sport. I smiled, pretending my chest didn't ache. I'd always been uneasy leaving her there. My parents liked things that looked good from the outside. Birthdays, photo ops, grandparent titles. Not the actual responsibility that came with them. Jenna's kids always soaked up whatever energy they had left. Still, I convinced myself that a week of grandparents and cousins was good for Lucy, good for her sense of family, even if mine had always felt like an obligation. Their town was only an hour and a half away, but it felt farther. somewhere between memory and exile. By the time I pulled into their driveway, Lucy was vibrating with excitement. "Grandma!" she yelled before I'd even turned off the engine. Mom appeared on the porch, immaculate as ever, one hand shading her eyes. "Well, there's my favorite girl," she said, arms open. She meant Lucy, not me. Jenna's kids, Aiden and Sophie, were already running through the sprinklers shrieking. Travis, my sister's husband, lounged nearby, beer in hand, playing the role of helpful observer. It all looked so normal. Mom kissed Lucy's head. "She's fine with us, Alice. You look tired. Take the week. Rest." "I always do," I said. I watched Lucy race toward the lawn, her laughter swallowed by the sound of water hitting grass. For once, I let myself believe everything would be okay. My husband and I left the next morning for a short business trip. We run a small design company, and we'd planned the meetings months ago to overlap with Lucy's week away. It was supposed to be easy: work, a few dinners, maybe sleep without alarms. That first evening, I called to check in. Mom answered on speaker. I could hear the cousins in the background. "She's right here," she said, then passed the phone. "Hi, Mommy." "We made cookies," Lucy said, proud and breathless. "Good," I said, smiling. "Be good for Grandma." Everything sounded fine. The next afternoon, no one answered. I tried again after dinner. Still nothing. By the time I saw the photos online, I'd already told myself a dozen harmless explanations: phone charging, bad reception, too busy having fun. Then I saw it. Mom, Dad, Jenna, Travis, the cousins, all of them on a yacht. Caption: "Family trip. Finally some time together. Family trip." I stared until the screen blurred. Lucy wasn't in any of them. I scrolled again, slower this time, like maybe she'd suddenly appear. Nope. No pigtails, no pink swimsuit, no Lucy. I called Mom. She answered, cheerful. "Hi, honey. How's the trip? Where's Lucy?" "At the house," she said. "At your house?" "Yes, dear. We couldn't bring everyone. There wasn't room in the car." "You left her there?" "Oh, don't sound so horrified." We asked the neighbor to check in. "What neighbor?" "The one with the dog." "They all have dogs, Mom." She sighed, tired of me already. "She's fine, Alice." I hung up. My husband looked up from his laptop. "Everything okay?" "No," I said. "They left her." He frowned, blinking. "Left who?" "Lucy. At their house. Alone." For a second, he didn't understand. Then his mouth opened a little. "Wait, what?" "I called. Mom said there wasn't room in the car. What? There wasn't room." His voice rose. "You're joking." "I wish I was." He pushed back his chair. "Call someone. Call anyone. I'm calling Grandma." Grandma answered on the first ring, voice warm. "Sweetheart." "Grandma, they went on vacation." They left Lucy alone. Silence. Then a stunned, "What? Alone where?" "At their house. They said a neighbor's checking in, but I think that's a lie." "She's 6, Grandma said sharply. "What do you mean they left her?" "I don't know." "Please, can you go there now? You're the only one close enough I could hear the sound of keys already in her hand." "I'm leaving right this minute. Stay on the line if you can." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. 20 minutes crawled by. Then Grandma's voice came back, breathless. "I'm here." I found her relief and nausea hit at once. "Is she okay?" "She's scared," Grandma said. "She's been eating crisps and crackers." "The lights are all on." She said she didn't want the dark to come back. I pressed my hand over my mouth. "Thank you." I'll stay with her until you get here. The next morning, we were on the first flight back. We dropped everything, meetings, clients, deadlines. The business could wait. Lucy couldn't. My husband didn't even argue. He just started packing before I finished the sentence. The flight felt endless. Every minute in the air was another minute too far away. When we finally reached my parents' house, Grandma met us at the door. She's inside. Lucy sat on the couch wearing one of Grandma's sweaters, eyes wide. The moment she saw me, she ran straight into my arms. Mommy. I held her, felt her heartbeat racing against mine. You're safe now. Grandma's voice was steady, colder than I'd ever heard it. They left her a note. Be good. There's food in the fridge. I didn't know what was worse, the note or how normal it sounded, like they were leaving a cat, not a child. The kitchen was a disaster. Crumbs, empty wrappers, sticky juice trails. On the table lay Lucy's drawing pad, a small stick figure inside a house full of yellow scribbles. All the lights still on. Grandma put a hand on my shoulder. You always believed they'd change, she said quietly. Now you know. Lucy cried herself out that night. She stayed curled up on the couch, eyes puffy, voice small. Sometime near morning, she finally fell asleep and whispered, half dreaming, I left the lights on so you'd find me. I sat there for a long time, staring at the crack in the ceiling, the same one from when I was her age. It had widened. Maybe it was always there, and I'd just stopped pretending not to see it. I used to think trust could be repaired. Now I know it only looks that way until the next break. After that week, nothing would ever be the same. The next day, their lives started to unravel. I have one sister, Jenna. She's 2 years older, and she's always been the favorite. She was the star, everyone said so. She danced competitively, the kind with sequins and trophies and judges who smiled too wide. Mom called it her gift. Dad said she had real potential. Everything in our house revolved around that gift. Her practices, her costumes, her nerves. When she twirled, we clapped. When she cried, we rearranged our lives. I didn't dance, I didn't shine. I was the practical one. The one who fetched the water bottle, held the camera, made sure the lights were off before we left for another weekend competition. Mom called me responsible. At the time, I thought it was a compliment. Now I know it was just convenient. When I was 8, they started leaving me home alone. Not overnight, just long enough to forget what company felt like. I'd make a sandwich, do my homework, and pretend the hum of the fridge was someone talking to me. Grandma was the only one who noticed. She lived nearby, and she'd stop by when she knew they'd be gone. She never made a big deal of it, just showed up with dinner and company. She had a way of making an empty house sound full again. Once I told her it made sense that Mom and Dad loved Jenna more. She's special, I said. Grandma looked at me for a long moment before answering. So are you, honey. She's just louder about it. That was Grandma. Soft voice, sharp aim. Jenna's teenage years were the peak of her career. She was in every regional dance final, every glossy recital photo, smiling like her life depended on it. Mine revolved around helping her pack and hearing about her wins after the fact. I used to watch from the crowd when they performed nearby, my parents in the front row, waving roses like she was on Broadway. I'd sit a few rows back, trying to clap in time with the music. Then, one day, it ended. It didn't happen dramatically. There was no injury, no meltdown. She just stopped winning. The girls she used to beat were suddenly better, taller, faster. Jenna took a break. The break stretched into forever. She stayed in her room, scrolling through old photos, eating junk food out of boredom and grief. Mom said, "She's just processing." Dad bought her a treadmill that doubled as a clothes rack within a week. When she stopped dancing, our parents didn't know what to do with themselves. Their entire personalities had been built around her next routine. Without it, the house went quiet. Too quiet. For the first time in years, there was space to talk about something else. They just didn't have anyone to talk to. Then Jenna met Travis. He worked in marketing, which I later learned meant he was unemployed with opinions. He was charming, though, enough for Mom to call him a good influence. They got married a year later, and, because life has a sense of humor, they moved into my parents' house. Just for a while, they said, to save money for a place of their own. That was 8 years ago. They're still saving. The house I grew up in became a shared property. My parents, Jenna, Travis, and eventually their 2 kids. It looked the same from the outside, but inside it was chaos. Half daycare, half retirement home. Mom loved it. It's so nice having everyone under one roof, she'd say, like she'd built an empire. Dad just nodded, probably because he'd learned long ago that disagreeing was bad for his health. I moved an hour and a half away with my husband and started a small business. We had Lucy, my quiet, curious girl, who loved books and bedtime stories and still believed the world was kind. When Lucy was old enough, I started bringing her over. At first, I stayed for the weekend, just to be sure she was comfortable. She adored her cousins, Aiden and Sophie, wild, loud, always sticky from popsicles. Jenna liked to joke that Lucy was the calm one, which, in Jenna language, meant the boring one. I didn't argue. Being boring beats being reckless. Over time, Cousins Week became a tradition. One week every summer where Lucy stayed with her grandparents and cousins while I worked, or more truthfully, recovered. Lucy counted down the days every year. I counted the ways it could go wrong and told myself it wouldn't. Mom always said, "Go enjoy yourself, Alice. You deserve a break." She said it the same way people say, "Go ahead. We'll keep the cat alive." Looking back, the pattern feels obvious. They'd always taken care of Jenna, her dreams, her mistakes, her family. I'd just never realized how far they were willing to go for her until they crossed the line from careless to cruel. If you'd asked me back then, I'd have said I trusted them. Not because they earned it, but because I wanted to believe they'd learned something over the years. But people don't change. They just get better at pretending. Grandma sat at my parents' kitchen table like she'd just walked through a storm and hadn't decided if she'd survived it. In front of her lay the note my parents left for Lucy. "Be good. There's food in the fridge." Her voice was calm, which somehow made it worse. "I can't believe my daughter wrote that." No one answered. The only sound was the refrigerator humming, the same one that kept the food my mother apparently thought could raise a child. Lucy was asleep on the couch, finally calm after hours of crying. My husband stood by the window, jaw clenched, as if trying not to put his fist through the glass. "I always knew your mother was selfish," Grandma said. "But I didn't think she'd leave her granddaughter alone." "She said the neighbor would check in," I muttered. Grandma's eyebrows rose. "Which neighbor?" I shrugged. "The imaginary one, apparently." That earned a short, bitter laugh. "Well," she said, "imaginary neighbors aren't much help." "You're reporting this, right?" "I will," I said. "Today, Alice." Not eventually. The police station was 10 minutes away. The officer listened, his jaw tightening as I explained. "So she was alone for how long?" he asked. "About half a day," I said. "They left that morning for a week-long trip. They planned to leave her alone the whole time, but I found out and called my grandmother. She got there that evening." He kept writing, slower now. "Unbelievable," he muttered. I handed him the note. "That's what they left behind." He nodded once. "We'll start a welfare investigation." When he asked if I wanted to stay anonymous, I shook my head. "No, they need to know exactly who called." By the time we left the station, the sun was setting. We went back to the house, packed Lucy's things, and cleaned what we could. Grandma kissed Lucy's forehead before we left. "You're safe now, sweetheart," she said softly. "And I'll always come if you need me." Lucy smiled sleepily. "Promise?" "Promise." We drove home that night. Nobody spoke. Every few miles, my husband's hands would tighten on the wheel, then relax again, like he was still trying to process the fact that we were driving away from people who thought this was normal. A week later, my phone lit up with Mom's name. I answered on speaker so my husband could hear. "Hello? What did you do?" Her voice wasn't confused. It was furious. "I filed a police report," I said, "for child abandonment." "What? What police report?" There was a shuffle, and suddenly Jenna's voice cut through the line. "Don't lie, Alice!" "We're not talking about that." Then came the shouting, both of them at once. "What did you say to Grandma?" "She's lost her mind." "She's giving the house to you." "She's throwing us out." "Do you think that's funny?" I blinked. "Wait. What?" "Don't act innocent," Jenna snapped. "Grandma changed the trust. The house is in your name now." "I didn't even know she had a trust." "Sure," Mom said, dripping sarcasm. "You just happened to end up with the house." "How convenient." "She's not confused," I said. "She's angry." "There's a difference." "Angry because you filled her head with lies," Mom shot back. "You've been jealous since you were a kid." "Of what, Mom? Your parenting? Or Jenna's trophies?" That hit. I heard her breath catch. Jenna came back louder. "You've destroyed this family." "No," I said. "You did that when you left a 6-year-old alone with a fridge." The line went dead. My hands were shaking when I called Grandma. She answered immediately. "I was expecting this call." "I just got off the phone with them," I said. "They're saying you changed the trust." "I did." "Why?" "Because I've spent 78 years cleaning up other people's messes." This time I wanted to prevent one. I sank into a chair. "They think I made you do it." "I know." "They came by already?" "Yes." I told them to leave. Then I called my lawyer. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," she said. "They won't try again." "They hate inconvenience more than consequences," I laughed. "They're calling it elder abuse." "That's new." "At least it's creative." "Grandma, why give me the house?" She was quiet for a moment. "Because I can't leave it to someone who thought that roof was fit for a child to be alone under." "It's my decision, Alice. You don't owe me thanks." I took a breath. "You're sure?" "I'm sure." "Now promise me one thing. Don't let them near Lucy again." "I promise." "Good," she said. "Then we're done worrying." After we hung up, I sat at the table, phone still in my hand, heart still racing. The police report, the house, the calls. On paper, it looked like justice. In real life, it felt like exhaustion. Maybe families like ours don't break all at once. Maybe they just keep cracking until one day someone notices the floor isn't holding anymore. I thought the shouting was over. I was wrong. For 3 days, everything was quiet. That kind of quiet that feels borrowed, like the pause between thunderclaps when you're not sure if the storm is moving away or just catching its breath. Lucy was back at school. My husband buried himself in work. I tried to go back to normal things, laundry, deadlines, pretending to sleep. But my phone kept lighting up with missed calls from numbers I didn't recognize. I didn't answer. On the 4th morning, the quiet broke. It started with my cousin from Ohio. "I just wanted to check on you," she said, drawing out the words like she was calling from a soap opera. "Why?" I asked. She hesitated. You haven't seen it?" She didn't need to explain. The minute I hung up, the texts started rolling in. Screenshots, links, everyone tagging everyone. Mom had posted a long, trembling paragraph about betrayal and manipulation. Jenna added a shorter one. I'll never understand how someone can destroy their own family for money. Travis, never one to miss attention, commented, #elderabuse. By lunchtime, my name was trending locally, a sentence that should never happen to anyone without a publicist. I called Grandma. She picked up on the second ring, voice brisk. People keep calling me, she said before I could speak. Asking what's going on. Something about computers. I told them I don't do that Facebook nonsense. It's not nonsense, I said. Okay, it is. But they're lying about you. Of course they are, she said, calm as if we were discussing the weather. What are they saying? That I made you give me the house. She snorted. That's creative. I can still think, last I checked. Do you want to see what they're saying? She hesitated. Might as well. I hate when people describe things badly. I drove an hour and a half back to their town, to Grandma's place. The small house she's lived in for more than 30 years. She moved there back when my parents got married, after giving the big house, my childhood home, to my mother through her trust. Write down my passwords, she said as soon as I came in case this kills the computer. It's not going to kill the computer. You don't know that, she said. I set her up at the kitchen table. It smelled like tea and clean air, the way it always did at her place. She leaned close to the screen, squinting. Good Lord! They used my wedding photo. Where did they even get that? Probably from Aunt Carol's endless album of family mistakes. She scrolled. Mom's post, full of sighs and prayer hands. Jenna's essay about family loyalty. Travis, doing his usual lawyer impression in the comments. Grandma's hand trembled once, then steadied. All right, she said. Enough fiction. Let's tell the truth. You don't owe them anything, I said. I owe myself a good night's sleep, she replied. Show me where to type. Her post was short, clean, and sharp. I changed my will and my revocable living trust. I did it because my daughter and her husband left their 6-year-old granddaughter alone in the house I own while they went on vacation. I found the child myself that evening. No one tricked me. I'm not confused. I'm angry, and I'm done. The big house will go to Alice, who remembers what family means. The others can find another roof. She hit post, closed the laptop like she'd just ended a meeting, and said, There. Now they can chew on that. The reaction was instant. Within an hour, her post was everywhere. People I hadn't heard from in a decade were messaging me things like, Your grandma's a legend. Mom deleted her own post. Jenna locked her profile. Travis tried to argue in the comments and got eaten alive by the internet within minutes. Grandma watched it unfold like someone watching a chess game she'd already won. They always forget, she said, that I raised half this town. 2 days later, Jenna showed up at the door with flowers and sunglasses. Grandma didn't open it. She watched through the window until Jenna left the bouquet on the step, then waited another hour before tossing it in the trash. She brought carnations, Grandma told me over the phone. You don't apologize with carnations. That's like saying sorry with a parking ticket. When my husband Lucy and I visited Grandma that weekend, her little house felt like a different world. Peaceful, steady, untouched by the noise in the town. Grandma had baked cookies. Lucy sat on the floor drawing while we drank tea. They've been calling again, Grandma said casually. I let it go to voicemail. What if they show up? I asked. I'll call the police, she said, and maybe the newspaper. They like updates. I laughed. You really don't scare easily, do you? Not anymore. I already outlived their approval. She poured more tea. You know, I used to think silence kept the peace. Turns out it just gives bullies better acoustics. When we left, she walked us to the door. If they show up again, I told her, call me first. She smiled. I'll call whoever gets here faster. Lucy hugged her tightly. You're brave, she said. Grandma winked. Don't tell anyone. It ruins my reputation. That night, back home, I scrolled through Grandma's post one more time. The storm online had mostly passed, but the truth was still sitting there, pinned to the top of her page like a scar that healed on its own terms. One comment stood out. Sometimes the loudest families get quiet when someone finally tells the truth. Maybe that was us. They wanted Grandma's silence. Instead, she gave them the truth. Loud, public, and permanent. 6 months later, everything finally settled. At least on paper. My parents, Jenna and Travis, moved out of the big house after their 30 days were up. They rent now, all together, in a small duplex near the highway. No more yachts or luxury holidays. Rent does that to people. The police investigation ended with a charge of child endangerment. They got probation, a fine, and mandatory parenting classes. No jail, but the report made the local news, and suddenly everyone's favorite family became the town cautionary tale. Child Protective Services also came knocking on Jenna and Travis's door. A routine check, but embarrassing enough that even Mom can't spin it into a victim story. From what I've heard, the house is loud with fighting and quiet with resentment. I don't call. They don't either. Silence has never sounded this peaceful. Lucy and I visit Grandma every week now. The drive isn't bad, an hour and a half of car karaoke and snack crumbs. Grandma pretends to hate the noise, but she always waves from the porch before we're even out of the car. We're planning a short vacation together this spring. Somewhere sunny, somewhere simple. Lucy's already packed 3 books and a bathing suit. Grandma says she'll bring crossword puzzles and sunscreen for the pale ones. Life feels small again, in the best way. Steady, quiet, honest. So what do you think? Did Grandma do the right thing? Did I, by reporting it? Did we go too far? Or not far enough? Let me know in the comments, and subscribe for more.